The restaurants you love, the food you crave, and the people that make it all happen. We tell their stories on the Paper Trails podcast with Albemarle Paper Supply.
What's going on, guys? How are you? We are back with the Paper Trails podcast. I'm your host, Nick Caligari-Vitros, and I am super pumped to bring episode 2 of season 2 of our podcast. Super stoked, to have Lee and Zack with us. And just so you guys know, the reason why you're hearing the echo is we are in their kitchen manufacturing facility, I guess we would call it. So we are with Barvecue. Okay, so this is a plant-based barbecue. They are, I guess, maybe still a startup considered.
Yep.
Still a startup. They've been working on this product for the last couple of years, and I am super pumped to bring them. They're actually right now building. We actually just went and checked out. I think what we said, the largest
plant-based smokehouse in the world.
Largest plant-based smokehouse in the world, over 10,000 square feet. It's looking to be done in the middle of this year.
Hoping to open in July
2021. And we are super excited to have them on the podcast to talk about plant-based barbecue, plant-based meat, maybe the industry, how you guys got into the industry, and obviously just an alternative to just regular barbecue, right? And so we're excited to have these guys on board. And so anyway, if this is your first time plugging in to our podcast, just so you guys know, we are a podcast all about entrepreneurship, business ownership, grinding, working, honing your craft, and obviously the food industry with obviously, we owning, a paper company, and my I don't know if you guys know, my family owns restaurants,
Yep.
which is how I got into this. But anyway, let's kick off with just a little maybe soft intro. Lee, maybe tell us about how did you end up here? How did you end up as CEO of Barvecue? So is this something that you've always wanted to do? I mean, give us a little story.
Yeah, funny story. Well, thanks for coming out, Nick. Appreciate you making a visit and learning something about plant-based barbecue.
100%.
Yeah, so I just telling you a little bit earlier, I had an industrial valve company. I'm an NC State engineering grad. Sort of grew up in the Carolinas, barbecue country.
Yep.
Families, long-time vegetarian family, so we a lot of times we miss out on the barbecue experience in the Carolinas growing up. But you can occasionally find a good barbecue sandwich. But anyway, I had this, was an entrepreneur already, had this valve company, sold that in 2017. Still young enough, I wanted to decompress a little bit, but knew I wanted to do something else.
Sure. So your family had businesses before?
Yeah, I had my own valve business.
But your dad
my dad was an entrepreneur too,
okay.
So I think I got that sort of in the DNA, I guess.
100%, me too.
I always want to do it myself. Anyway, I was trying to decide what I wanted to do next. Really didn't have a whole lot of plans to even start another business. I worked hard for a number of years and was ready to relax a little bit. But I like food. I've got a passion for the plant-based space.
Sure.
And what's going on in it. At the time in 17, it was Beyond Meat hadn't gone public. That was one of the big things that really sort of set the space off on it.
And for the audience that doesn't know who Beyond Meat is, give them a little background.
They are actually the first. They make everybody does them for their burger, but Ethan Brown is a company he founded years ago. Been working hard, and they were the first plant-based meat company to go public.
Okay.
And that really set off things in the whole space.
Okay.
Tons of companies in the space, big and small. But it's growing like crazy. It's exciting space to be in.
Yeah.
This time. So anyway, I had on my list of things I was going to do after selling my business, and I thought a little bit about could you create a plant-based barbecue brand coming out of the Carolinas?
So you thought about this already?
This is back in late 17.
Okay, so you sold your company.
Yep.
Took some time off, kind of hanging out, doing your thing. Right?
Yeah.
Congratulations. And so this is already in the back of your mind, what if I can do it?
Just ideas floating around. Do that all the time. I'm an engineer and a process guy. I like food, but I've learned a lot about food in the last 2 or 3 years. But
Sure.
At the time, I was not a food guy. that summer we'd had a young special ed teacher who'd been helping out with our daughter, and my wife had connected with her and my daughter too, and came to find out that her husband was a food scientist, culinary school guy, great guy all around, and our wives sort of connected us over dinner, and Zack and I hit it off. So this idea I had that I was like, I don't really want to dive into this because I'm not a food guy. Well, Zack had the exact missing piece to the puzzle that to at least give us a shot at it.
Sure.
So I talked to Zack about it, and he was all in. So we started, had a few conversations, and the first one we decided pretty quickly to form a company. So my wife Jeannie and Zack and I sort of are the founding partners, and we started working on the idea. How can we make this? One thing Zack said when we first sat down was, food is all about taste. It's you create something that people like, it tastes good, people will want it again.
That's good.
So what we Zack wanted to do was create great tasting plant-based barbecue. That's been the mission. It's the mission all along. That's our focus.
Yeah.
And then we wanted to build a brand around that, and something that we could try to scale up, prove it locally, scale it up regionally, and see if we could create a national brand. So huge, monumental task. So the first thing we needed was a place to do that.
Sure.
Zack was working his kit to son. We were doing the coffee shop thing and the house meetings and all that for a few months. But we were lucky enough to find there wasn't a whole lot of shared kitchen space at the time, around, and we really wanted our own place to really do, fine tune our process, create that process. So we bought this facility here, spent about 4 or 5 months going through the permit process and design process, and opened up our commercial kitchen, small scale production facility to basically do our development work.
Sure.
And then start making product to sell locally. So we opened here in 2018.
Okay.
Like it was May, I guess it was. And just started selling, getting some feedback. People liked the product. We were the whole time we were sort of fine tuning things, working on process.
Yeah.
And then had our first our product. So we early on decided we wanted to go after the retail and the food service sectors. So we have our first product was what we called original pulled BBQ.
Okay.
And we do our own sauce. It's wood smoked. So coming from the Carolinas, true barbecue is wood smoked. So
sure.
First thing when everybody wants to start building a big food brand, they want to put smoke flavors and all that.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for authentic barbecue. We launched our first program. I think it was probably September, October of 18.
Okay.
Actually at Veg Fest in Charlotte. It was a 12-ounce retail pack of our pulled BBQ.
Okay.
A lot of people think it's very, very similar to a classic pulled pork barbecue sandwich. We'll make you one before you leave today.
We'll see. We'll see.
So
we'll see.
you'll be the judge. So we actually had a major food service distributor in here last week, and guy's seen it all, done that. And he's tried Impossible and Beyond, or the big names in the plant-based space right now. And so we made him a barbecue sandwich, which was gone pretty quickly. We'll see the same with you. And so anyway, he finished and he looked at us and he said, I've tried Impossible, I've tried Beyond, but this is the best plant-based protein I've tried yet. So anyway,
I'm sure that's got to make you feel good, right?
Yeah. So Zack is awesome with his culinary skills as far as taste, and what we're doing is a little bit of food science, but it's also just making a product that tastes great too.
Yeah.
And people like that. The texture's right. And then
which is the whole thing about sometimes people's pushback is the taste. It's hey, like this doesn't taste like the, you know what I mean? And so if you're able to create, which sounds like you guys have, a product that is plant-based, but also tastes amazing.
Yep.
I mean, you won, right? Like that's the actual.
We hope so. We're getting a lot of great interest. And we also, we're going after retail, so frozen retail, either in the frozen section or the frozen meat section of a grocer, natural channel or regular grocer. We're also going after food service. Yeah. So as we started talking to food service people, some people want the food service establishments want the convenience. We have a local deli here in Charlotte. They want the convenience of just taking our fully sauced product and heating it up and making a great sandwich with their own slaw or whatever they're doing. A barbecue joint that wants to add a plant-based option, for a large percentage of the crowd out there. Sure. It's either vegans and vegetarians, but there's also just a large percentage of the crowd we call flexitarians that are just want to put something other meat on their plate a couple times a week. So that's really where the biggest market is.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's huge.
Okay.
And so anyway, we had we're doing our own sauce, which is great. People like that, but sauce tends to be highly regional. Even within the Carolinas, you've got
it is true.
And everybody likes their. Somebody wants it hot, somebody wants it sweet.
That's true.
Kansas City's got theirs. Texas has got theirs.
Memphis.
Exactly.
Carolinas.
Exactly. So anyway, we decided to create this product we call naked pulled BBQ.
Okay.
So it's still wood smoked, lightly seasoned, but no sauce. So a restaurant can just take that product,
their version,
and add their sauce. They might have their own sauce they make or whatever. So it allows you to get whatever flavor profile you want. There's also a lot of great applications for it other than that. Tacos, burritos, makes a great smoked chicken salad. All kinds of things you can do with it. It's a unique product. So and then we also have a product called Chopped BBQ, which is very similar to our pulled. Okay. A little bit different texture, but it's also gluten-free. So doesn't have the wheat component.
Nice. So 4 SKUs.
4 SKUs. Okay. And 8 SKUs, actually 4 products. So we got the same products we have in food service, 4 and 5 pound packages, and then the retail products are 10 or 12 ounce.
Interesting. Okay, so the scientist behind this all. Let's introduce Zack. Zack, tell us about yourself. How did this partnership? Look at from the outside. I have a business partner, and I've interviewed some people that own business together, and partnership is so important. For things to click and mesh, and just talking to you guys for the little bit that I have, I'm like, yo, these guys click pretty well. It looks like, So how did you come into the mix?
So originally from Michigan.
Okay.
Moved down.
What part of Michigan?
Saginaw-Flint area.
Okay. Actually friends from Flint.
Okay. Yeah, so went to Michigan State for my undergrad for food science.
Okay.
And really wanted to do kind of the research chef thing. So kind of the qualifications for that are you have your food science degree, but then you also take culinary. So you can approach it two different ways. You can be a chef that understands the science, or you can be a scientist that understands culinary.
Gotcha.
So I went that route, had my degree, went to culinary school to learn how to make it taste good.
Sure.
I understand the components of it, but what makes it so enticing to people? What makes it so?
Interested in food?
I have ever since about middle school.
Okay.
Started watching the Food Network, and that was my jam. Something clicked.
Were your parents into food at all, or no? Literally the Food Network.
No, that was the influence.
Okay.
It was
cool.
early on, and I don't know, something that just kind of clicked, and
sure.
it made sense. So did that for a bit. Went through, started in Chicago, moved to New York, worked for different ingredient companies.
Cool.
How was that? So on the science side, I loved it, but it was it was in a lab. It was, I'm able to wear lab coats again, which is great because of food safety, but, starting with lab coats because you're in a lab, it took all of the fun food part out of it. It was straight science.
Yeah.
Great for, building that knowledge base, just the understanding of it, but very dry. So went through kind of some, moving to different locations just to try to get more, just more knowledge.
Sure.
And my fiance at the time, now wife, said, I want to go to UNCC. I said, okay, we're going to Charlotte.
That's from where?
From Michigan.
Okay, so you're back in Michigan.
Back in Michigan.
And your fiance says, I want to go to Charlotte.
Yep.
Did you know anything about Charlotte? Did you guys have
She said UNCC. I said perfect. Where's that?
So like random? Like,
Yeah. That's so she's a special ed teacher now.
Okay.
And UNCC has a great program.
Okay.
And that's where she
Wanted to go.
That's where she wanted to go.
Okay, all right.
So,
I mean, first off, what a thin thread that is, right? Like, can we talk about that for a second? Out of anywhere in the country, you know what I mean?
It's funny when you get as old as I am now. You look back in life at all these just little things that seem inconsequential.
100%.
Just like how it totally shaped your life.
100%.
And so it's a little scary in the sense these little decisions you make that don't seem like they're anything. You know?
That's why I bring it up. That's why I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, you knew nobody down here.
Yeah.
She just rattled off a couple of letters, and you're like, okay.
here we go.
And that's how you guys. Anyway, all right, continue. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, so that's kind of how we got here. And she actually went to MSU as well. So we're both Michigan State grads.
Okay.
And her undergrad was in environmental policy. So she's very environmentally conscious. So she's been vegetarian since she was like 12, I think.
Wow.
12 or 13.
Okay.
And she wasn't much of a cook. Love her, but she wasn't much of a cook.
Okay.
So that was kind of something that we had learned together. And she was learning how to cook, and I was learning how to cook vegetarian and vegan meals.
Okay.
And it got to a point where it was really good. So we just said, this is the lifestyle that we're going to follow.
Okay.
And that's kind of between her teaching, which led us to meet Cooper's, and I think the first meal that we had was it the barbecue black bean burgers?
Yeah.
That was the first meal, and that's when we knew it was the right fit.
I love that. Okay, so you guys meet. Your wife tells you, hey, there's this couple. I'm helping out with their daughter. This and that. They have this idea. Your first initial reaction was what?
Absolutely, let's do it.
So okay, and now you guys talk, right?
Yep.
Lee brings up the concept up. What were your thoughts? Like, any hesitation? Were you like, okay, or did you know it was a winner from the get?
I knew it was a great idea. The main thing for me is, a lot of it's texture. Like, how are you going to mimic that texture?
Yeah.
That's so
different.
That's so different, and
it's
it's
true.
so
That's
distinct.
True. I never thought about that.
There's a lot with the process that we have now is a lot based on, we can get the flavors to get pretty close. You do the wood smoke, you get the sauce right, the seasonings.
Yeah.
But the texture is the one component that is difficult, and what makes our product so different. There's a lot of burgers, there's a lot of ground meat alternatives, which is it's great for this space. It's great for just.
What are some of the alternatives? You said black bean is one. What are some of the other alternatives to
I think, again, not to mention Impossible and Beyond so much, but that's what's getting on menus right now. The burger is the first one. Whenever you go to restaurants, that's an easy addition for restaurants to say, we're going to do a burger. We can put our own spin on it. We can still put our French onions or whatever we want to make as our burger.
Sure.
Put that restaurant stamp on it, but have it as a plant-based option.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great, but the texture it's a burger. It's a ground. There's not a lot of texture there. You cook it, it holds its shape, perfect.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But doing barbecue is such a distinct pulled texture, and that was the crucial thing for me that I wanted up front was, yep, I can smoke it. Yep, we can put a good sauce on it. But that mouthfeel is so important and so different right now. What is not out there is something that that has that texture.
So you listen to the idea, and are your wheels turning already?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I can imagine engineers, scientists, you're like, okay, how are we gonna make this thing work? Now, question: is that why you think no one's really taken off with the barbecue plant-based side? Is because of how maybe difficult it is to do the texture? Do you think? I'm curious right now, actually.
It's a new space. I mean, it's been around for years. So there's a lot of opportunity. There's hundreds of companies now that are getting into the space, and sort of everything that there's either a meat or dairy product, cheese. The first major inroad was, you probably saw the grocery in the dairy section. Was soy milk,
yes,
almond milk,
yes,
oat
yes,
milk,
yes.
And then there's non-dairy cheeses, and those have grown. So that the dairy sector actually was the first. That grew significantly.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then the plant-based meat sector is doing the same thing. So sort of every product you've seen traditionally, maybe that's in the dairy or meat section, there is or will be a plant-based option.
Yeah.
I'm vegetarian for 25 plus years.
Wow.
So the space has changed a lot. There's a lot more product availability. Really about anything that you can sort of dream of, it's available, and a pretty good option too. But the space has grown so much that there's a lot more development work to do.
Yeah.
Right now coming from the Carolinas, we know barbecue we've been around barbecue for a long time. But we saw sort of a void, a niche, there wasn't a national brand. So we think we've got a great name. We've worked hard sort of building the brand, the name, and all the other sort of brand fundamentals you do around that. And that coupled with a great tasting product. Now we're working on it, is the convenience, is getting the product to consumers and restaurants.
Yeah.
Obviously distribution and accounts. So that's what we've been working hard on the past year to open all the little gates that you got to open to get to that.
What's the most difficult thing you guys have maybe encompassed so far in your couple of years? I mean, 2020 for food service, we'll chalk that one out. It's listen, I'm in the industry too. I've had over 20 customers close down last year, and it's unfortunate. These are friends. I mean, I own my company for 12 years now, and it's so unfortunate to see friends of mine. But so obviously 2018, right? You said, so a couple of years. What's maybe something you guys have learned about starting? Because I would think having the valve business may be different than having this.
Yeah, the process is, I found the process is very similar. The process, Zack's a process guy too. So, what we're trying to do is, trying to start a food company is hard. Any company is hard. Food company is very hard, particularly one you want to try to scale nationally.
Sure, yeah.
It's capital intensive if you're able to get successful at it. But just the amount of things you got to do. But as a process engineer or scientist,
sure.
You have complex things you got to solve or problems you got to deal with, and you simply just break those down into little to-dos and start checking them off the list. And Zack and I are both, I think it's one thing we both connect together well, and we're both very good and like to do that.
Yeah.
And so you start figuring out what needs to be done.
Maybe next.
Sometimes it's going to be the right thing, sometimes it's going to be the wrong thing.
Sure.
And you correct that, and that's what you do in business. So my previous business, you sort of do all these little things and celebrate these little milestones along the way, and you sort of look back and you say, wow, we've accomplished a lot. And we've been in the startup mode for almost 3 years now, and it seems like it's a day, but we've really accomplished a lot.
Yeah.
Foundation in what we're trying to do. This year is going to be a monumental year for us, but
100%.
it's just breaking it down into doable things that anybody can do. You just got to have the drive, and you got to figure out the resources. But we worked hard and we were ready to scale, last February, and we're like, we'd built some national connections in the plant-based space that people that maybe had some either connections or knowledge or know-how that we don't have.
Sure.
So we could try to grow fast and make as few mistakes as possible.
Yeah.
And so we put that sort of framework together, and we were just starting to make the connections and doing food service, distribution and accounts, and also the retail side. And that was like probably late January, early February, and then all of a sudden this thing called COVID hit.
Yeah.
And just the food service stuff we had that was sort of in the works, all went on ice,
Yeah.
and everybody's just trying to figure out how to survive. So
Yeah.
I had we got actually our top investor, girl named Melissa Ficina. I talked with her. It was probably 2 weeks into our shutdown here in the Carolinas, and you remember that?
Yeah.
And like, this is like, I remember at the time when it shut down, we're like, 4 weeks, that's an eternity. What are we going to do? Here a year later, we're still, buttoned up pretty good. But we're at the time, our plan was in 2018 to start, trying to penetrate some accounts in food service and retail, and then go after some funding. We were self-funded, up until last year.
Yeah.
And give us the funding to sort of take the next steps. And so, 2 weeks into COVID, I was talking to Melissa and saying, what do we do? Just talking out loud. Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
How do we deal with this? And so, we still had development work. There's a lot, tons of things to commercialize the products. We had plenty to do on that side. And Melissa sort of said, the investors, there's a lot of investors, there's a lot of capital available for plant-based companies right now, because it's a growing space. But she said, those companies, they still have money. They're maybe a little nervous because they're trying to figure out what to do. But go try to find the money, get the money, and then you'll come out the other side of COVID, in a strong position to sort of ready to go. So that's what we did, and we went after the funding, was able to start that and complete it in July, August of last year, which gave us the capital to sort of start our production facility, which is in process right now. We opened up in July.
Not to pry too much, but was that the first time you've ever gotten funding for a business, or did you?
It was. So my previous business was privately owned. Started with my own capital, grew it. Never got any outside funding.
Yep.
Did that. It was a great, profitable business. But it was but this, when we sat down to start this, we knew from day one. That we wanted to focus on creating great tasting food, but we also wanted this to be something we could scale and take it, seize the opportunity to make an impact in the plant-based space.
Sure.
And so we knew that was going to require capital. I had lucky enough I had the funds to get us to a point, and foundationally, but we wanted capital, and we're going to go after more capital this year to continue that process.
What did you learn in that? I mean, and the reason I'm asking is because there's a lot of restaurateurs, different people that want to start a business.
Yep.
Whether you're 16 years old starting a landscape business, and maybe your parents are going to help you out, or let's say you're an established, mortgage broker in your 30s, but you want to do your own thing. You know what I mean? So we have a wide spectrum of people listening. What did you learn from that? Because I was doing something for the first time, it can be a little nerve-wracking. You don't know exactly how it's supposed to work. Did you have anybody guiding you? Were you kind of just like, all right, let's learn how this process, what did you learn from getting investors involved?
I've tried to talk to a lot of people and understand, as with any decision, all of them have pluses and minuses.
Sure.
A privately owned company, taking no outside money, you have all the control, there's benefits to that, what we're trying to do is create something much bigger than ourselves. We need to have a lot of help, in people, capital, and connections.
Sure.
And doing that, it takes being more open in that sense. So you weigh the trade-offs of that, and then look inside and see, is that something where you want to go, and that is what we're trying to do. So that may not work for everybody.
So the real question is, at what scale do you want to take what you're doing? Mm-hmm. Because if you want to go huge scale, you may need to bring in some partners, right? But if it's something smaller, you may be able to kind of finesse it and do it, maybe work through some, through your own profits to kind of,
Exactly. Yeah. There's
interesting
figuring out that path to get there, and what you have to give something up when you get
100%. Zack, your thoughts on that?
I think what it took us a bit to figure out who the right people were, but we've always, one of the first things we did was set a mission statement for our company. And going to get investors, you're obviously bringing in different ideas, different personalities, different business, just ways of running a business. And we've been very, very fortunate to find mission-driven investors that their mission aligns with ours, and that aspect of it, they want us to continue.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference.
100%.
And we've been very, very fortunate with that, and because of that, to be able to continue doing what we love, how we want to do it, and have their support, and obviously, the funding that comes with that.
Sure.
But not under pressure to change what we're trying to do, who we are.
As soon as you guys met with them and you guys were talking, did you know, like it was them, or no, or was it a process?
Well,
I'm curious.
It was funny. Back to 2017, when sort of idea was percolating.
Yeah.
I think I'd read, it was either Forbes or Fortune magazine had an article on this group of basically plant-based venture capital companies, and it's grown substantially, but it was a fairly small group. I mean, there's a handful of companies.
I can imagine, yeah.
And the sort of leaders were New Crop Capital, Stray Dog Capital, and a group of others, and their mission was to basically fund and grow, startup plant-based food companies. And so those big brands you hear about now, they were instrumental in almost all those companies. And so it's funny, I sort of read about these guys, and when we were trying to decide, we knew getting into a food manufacturing business, it requires significant capital.
Sure.
Eventually when you're able to scale, and that we would need that capital. So read about these guys, I thought, well, that's pretty cool that there's actually venture capital companies that are mission aligned, that are building this framework to help companies. So that sort of probably was one of the checkoffs that said, yeah, this might be an interesting space to get into, because if we're able to get to that point, at least we'll have somebody that would listen to us. And so it turned around. So 2 years or 18 last year when we got the funding, it was that same group of investors is who we got. So it was, in fact, when I was pitching to them all last year, and then when we finally closed, I said, it was so cool that this group of VC firms that I'd read about when this thing was just an idea were actually the group that ended up funding us. And so that was, it was really cool to sort of circle around to that.
Really cool is not even the word. Like I thought that's where you were going with it, but I didn't want to jump the gun, and I was like, yeah, that is actually pretty cool.
And so
I love that. Question, for because you mentioned a lot of things that I like. What are some things that you've learned now starting the second company that also starting the first company you see in common, and maybe just starting a business in general, that somebody can learn about? Because you mentioned already, and I'm sure Zack, you're seeing this, it's not easy.
No.
No. I'll tell you our brief story. I graduated college in 2008. The market was not good. I wanted to find a job. My parents immigrated from Greece, got in the restaurant business because you didn't really have to know the language or anything. You could just cook and clean pots and pans, and my dad, actually my uncle, had the idea of me and my cousin, who's 4 years younger than me. So we graduated high school in 2008. So we're 18 and 21, and my uncle had the idea of us starting this paper disposable company, supplying restaurants with napkins and cups and all that stuff. And I'll be honest with you, the first 4 years, maybe 5, were so difficult because it was very different than what my parents did. My parents did restaurants, which is very high capital intensive, kitchens, booths, tables, space, sometimes buying the property.
Right.
It's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars.
Right.
For us, it wasn't that, but on this side, you open the doors and you start getting cash. Cash starts coming in. For us, you could literally rent a storage unit, start buying some things in bulk, have a van, or you use your and start selling. But the margins are so tight that you got to put it back into the business to buy another 4 pallets of brown towels to create larger margin the next time. Right. So it just took us so long to get that cash and actually pay us anything. I didn't know it was going to be that hard.
Yeah.
You know, like now looking back, we've had it for 12 years. Like, okay, like now it's fine. But the first 4 or 5 years were extremely difficult. I didn't know how. Now it's satisfying now on this end, but I just didn't know how hard it was going to be. Talk on that for a second.
Yeah,
Talk, because there's people hearing that maybe have been in business 2, 3, 4 years, and they're like, man, is this worth it? Like, you know, to be really transparent, my uncle, my dad, I mean, I remember them even coming to us 3 years in. We're still not able to pay ourselves a decent monthly salary for the hours that we're putting in. And they're like, why don't you just come take over these restaurants? We have, you can make money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can imagine seeing your kids year after year struggling, like not see it, but I could feel momentum building.
Right.
Every month, every year we were picking up new clients. Talk on that for a second.
I mean, it's 100% same thing I've experienced multiple times, you know. It's a really difficult thing. I mean, you've got to, you know, they say get into something you're passionate about, and, you know, I think there's things you could be more or less passionate about, but you've really got to have that fire to really drive and make it happen. And be flexible with, you know, what you maybe start off doing a lot of times and what you end up doing, or where you end up going. I look at it as you sort of starting this journey, and you sort of know you want to go from here to there, but you know how you get there, you know, may change totally, but you just adapt and figure it out. But it's you know, I tell you, my dad was an entrepreneur, and he told me when I started my first business 25 30 years ago maybe now, you know, he said, you know, he asked me, you know, why are you getting into it? Why are you doing that? You know,
how old were you when you started your first business?
It was 26 maybe, something like that. You know, pretty young.
Yeah.
You know, he said, don't, you know, a lot of people think you get into it for money.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you're successful, there could be some rewards in that.
Sure.
But, you know, he said, don't do it for money. Because I mean, at the time I was an engineer, you know, I was 26-year-old at that time. I was making good money, you know, and he said, you're going to take a step back, you know, and you may or may not ever recover what you lose giving up that 5 or 6 years, you know. And he was 100% right. I mean, I eventually recovered and did much better than that, but those 4 or 5 years are very difficult, you know, in more ways than one, and in a high chance that you will not succeed.
Yeah.
You know, I told Zack that when we started this, you know, and we're still in startup mode. You know, it's a high risk thing. The venture capital money that comes into it, they know it's high risk. You know, they try to make good bets. You know, a lot of what they're investing in is the team. You know, the people that what they're doing. You know, you know why. But you know, it's sort of overcoming that, but it just takes drive. I remember my previous business. I mean, I was probably a good 15 years into it, and had a successful business, but it just, you know, at the time it was still had a ways to go.
Yeah.
And we had somebody approach us about buying the business or whatever at the time, and that was sort of exciting. The first time somebody come in and, you know, interested in that.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him, and ended up we didn't sell the business at that point, but the guy said, you've got a great business here, but I can tell that you're this far from really taking that next step. You know, leaving the business, and he said, "Don't give up." You know, he said,
told you that.
Yeah, he said.
That's awesome.
I've seen
good for him.
A lot of times for people they've been grinding it out for 3, 4, or 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, that quit right before it can get successful, and so I think you've probably seen over the years that it's like right before you're there. You know, it's really difficult, and so, you know, and that. Just those words sort of stuck with me. It stuck with me throughout that business,
of course,
and through this business. I mean, there's times, you know, COVID hits, and you're like, man, we're working our tails off. We're ready to go last year, you know. We're ready to launch this thing, you know. Yeah. And then that happens. It's like, you know, nothing, you know. And so, you know, there's things you can do something about, and there's things you can't do things about.
100%.
You know, so COVID we couldn't do anything about, but the things we can, let's go out there and do those, and, you know, focus on it. So it's just. Never give up.
Listen, it's very impressive that guy said that to you, because you can imagine he's coming in to try to buy your business. You end up saying no, and then he's encouraging you on top of that.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know who this guy is, but it shows the level of character this guy's got.
Yeah.
Right? For him not to be pessimistic, but to be like, hey man, you got something good, keep fighting. I don't know. For some reason, like kudos to that guy. Whoever, shout out to the random guy out there. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
But Zach, how about you, man? What are some things that you've learned the last 3 years, you know, in this startup, you know, in owning your own business, the difficulties and challenges? I don't know, what was something you can maybe share?
We covered a lot, you know, just the business side of it, you know, the system side that, you know, we've tried to develop and work into it. And I think, you know, the whole idea of continuous improvement is basic. I mean, that's pretty generic for any type of business.
Sure.
And, you know, we've done that with our food as well. Like that's, for me, it was, you know, we started and it tasted good. Perfect. That's a great place to start. Now, what else can we do? How can we make it better? So, you know, within the last 3 years, we have improved it 3 or 4 times with different formulations to, you know, change some of the nutritionals, because we wanted to go after institutions. You know, you can't sell a product to a hospital just because it has no cholesterol, you know, because it's plant-based, but you can't have sodium that's through the roof because it doesn't pair with the whole benefit of it. So, you know, there's, you know, we've stripped everything out that's unnecessary so that we can have as true nutritionals and clean, you know, clean ingredients and easy to read. Everything you can on the back of the pack you can say and understand. So, you know, we've done it in the business to what do we learn, how do we change, what do we do to adapt. We do the same thing on the food side. You know, what else do we need to put into it? Is it a different process? Is it a different supplier? Because, you know, we can get our sweet potato in North Carolina. Perfect. That's what we're going to switch to, because not because it's cheaper, but because it's here.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to use.
Nice.
So the ability to do that not only within the business, but what our business produces. Ours is barbecue, but it could be anything.
Yeah.
You said it could be, you know, I know, you know, we just got this big win, but I got to put it into 3 more pallets of stuff so that I can continue to work next week.
100%.
So, you know, what do we need to put in for people that are going to be enjoying it, using it,
Yeah.
you know, operating it? What do we need to do so that everybody's growing with us?
I love that. I like that, Zach, because it's easy sometimes when something works to get complacent and just to get status quo with it and just, okay, cool. You know, my roofing company's doing okay. My pimento cheese company is doing okay. You know, just really get comfortable. But to really always be thinking and, you know, trying to figure out how to tweak and make better, that takes intentionality right there. Like, you really gotta put forth the mental energy to continue to make it better. And like, maybe for some people it comes a little more natural. It seems like you guys are more process guys. I'm not. So like, I've got to be constantly like, actually, okay, you know, how is this channel working? How are my reps getting orders to the office? You know what I mean? How is this actual process working? And so I like that. That's it's something very. I think people can use that in whatever they're doing. Let's switch gears for a second. Let's talk about like the industry, plant-based stuff, because this is kind of like new word to me. Okay, I'm you know, I mean, I've eaten a lot of veggie stuff. You know, I'll fast, no meat, no dairy for Lent. You know, Easter's coming up. You know, I think it's going up after Easter, but you know, anyway, we're recording this before Easter, and so, you know, I've gone, you know, 40 days, no meat, no dairy, and I've eaten my fair share of veggie patties from a lot of places, and some of them are great. You know, actually taste great. And I love them. I wouldn't mind eating them, but let's talk about the space a little bit. About like, I don't know, like, and here's something actually else of random that I heard on a Joe Rogan podcast recently. No, actually, it was on another entrepreneur podcast, but it was something that like Bill Gates said something that like 100% of people in like 20 years will be eating only plant-based meat. And like there was this like huge like, you know, backlash of it, because I'm like, I mean, 100%. Like I mean, if you would have said something else, 40% on, okay, like that's maybe reasonable, but like, he went and did it. But I don't know, talk about the space a little bit. I mean, talk about maybe why it may be something, for somebody may want to consider. And if not 100%, maybe go plant-based or, no meat, at least try it, or maybe occasional, like you mentioned. Right. What was the word of the
flexitarian?
Flexitarian. Maybe have people be a little more flexitarian, or which I think we're heading there. I know people are being more concerned with what they're putting in their body and stuff like that. But give us maybe some of your experiences. I have zero experience in this.
I mean, the global food system is changing rapidly, and it's changed. That acceleration has picked up tremendously since we've been in the space. It was growing rapidly in 2017 when we got into it, and it's really accelerated. It's accelerated even faster with COVID. And I think a couple things globally. Can we produce enough food? Is there enough food for the growing population? Without destroying the planet or our health. And sort of all those connections. And then people, obviously with information technology, everybody wants to know more about what they're eating, where it comes from. One thing, our product is clean label. We've focused really hard on having domestic supply for all of our ingredients. Core ingredients. It's not easy to do that. It takes a focused effort. Our product is non-GMO, project verified, certified plant-based, so it's important to know. People want to sort of know that you're being astute in where you're sourcing your products from. And so, but one thing we learned early on, we had have a group of advisors that were with one of the original plant-based meat companies is a brand called Gardein. You see them in every store, food service, and we have a couple of their original team members as advisors for barbecue. And one thing I learned, early on, that the whole plant-based space, which is the meat sector, is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's growing, astronomically. But the number one customer that makes up like 90 or 95% of the business, the plant-based dairy and meat sector is going after, are flexitarians. It's Main Street folks who are just wanting to eat a little bit healthier diet, maybe, or whatever. And so the vegan and vegetarian population is growing tremendously too. And so we're going after all that, trying to have a product that appeals not just to vegans and vegetarians, but to guys just like you. When it's coming up, I've got to take the meat off my plate, but I still want something that tastes good and satisfying. So out of that group, the number one reason that people will eat a plant-based meat or dairy product as opposed to the traditional counterpart is for health reasons. And so part of what we're trying to do is create a product that is healthy. It's not just plant-based or vegan junk food. And so that's important to us. We're in the food service, we're trying to go after restaurants. Corporate dining, but we're in hospitality, but we're also wanting to go after the medical field, the hospitals. And so we want a product that appeals to them. Same way with schools, college and universities is a huge market. The number two reason is for the environment, just the what's going on with just the destruction of the environment, from the oceans to the lands to the air, to help improve the environment by eating plant-based products or more plant-based products. And then animal welfare. There's people, there's a whole sector about that. It's food's a personal thing. And all of us sort of eat what we eat because it's what we want to eat. And I think it should always be that way. So everybody's got what they like to eat and the reasons they eat it. And to me, I think it still falls back to you eat things that you like that taste good to you.
That's true.
So what we're doing with barbecue is trying to put a product out there that gives them an alternative, an option, but hopefully people like it. And that's why people buy it.
I love that. Zach, your thoughts on the industry, plant-based? I mean, you know, what are your thoughts on that? Anything you can educate maybe the viewer about, you know, that maybe they may or may not have known or heard of?
Yeah, I think, you know, with just people's growing understanding of it and just openness to it, you know, being vegan myself, you know, I've gone to those cookouts where it's pulled barbecue and there's nothing for me to eat. Like, you don't want to be that person in the, you know, sitting in the corner. It's not a good feeling, and I think people are becoming more aware of that. You know, we're having a party, but you know, I do have some vegan friends that are coming over. I'm gonna have something for them.
Yeah.
And that's a growing space. So, you know, like Lee mentioned, flexitarians are buying it, but they're buying it for themselves, but they're also buying it for others.
That's a good point.
You know, that's the family of 5 who, you know, the one son or one daughter is, oh, I don't want to eat meat this week, so the whole family supports it, and you know, they have Meatless Mondays, or you know, the mom is purchasing things in the grocery store, the dad's going to, you know, to the local food truck to get some different options for the family. So I think it's more, you know, it's more inclusive now. There's less. It's not just kind of an outcast thing, you know. Let's bring it in so that everybody can enjoy it.
Yeah.
And you know, having everything taste better helps with, oh, okay, well, this isn't a bad thing. You know, we can do this more often. You know, having different options, having burgers that are easy to get, or barbecue that is kind of nostalgic, or ice cream, or you know, anything along those lines that, you know, we can go out as a family and still go get ice cream, but everybody can have something.
Sure, I like it.
And that's huge. That's just kind of a sense of community that we want to help to build, and that I think, you know, even with, you know, all the unfortunate things that COVID has brought, people are at home, people are in those smaller groups, and I think they're bringing that understanding together.
I like that. And I mean, I think we mentioned it earlier, but I think the advancement of the whole space, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it, you know, yourselves being, being in that diet for a long time. I don't know, 10, 20 years, however long you guys have, you know, been vegan. I'm sure you've seen the space get better. I mean, just a more variety. I mean, I'm sure, you know.
Yeah, the options
are
dining out, you know, or in the store. There's just tons of more variety, better options, better tasting options.
100%.
You know, and that's exciting, you know, and you know, another reason we're excited about the whole food service business opening back up, you know, getting stronger, you know, is to see that continue to progress.
Yep, I love that. Which it is, just so you guys know. I mean, we're recording this end of March 2021, and you know, I'm literally, this is what I do. I see restaurants and executive chefs every day for my job, and you know, I've seen it getting stronger and stronger, which is awesome. I love to see people in my industry keep progressing and making money and moving their businesses forward. So cool. Parting thoughts? Any last thoughts you guys want to give the audience about, you know, your business, barbecue, wood smoke, plant-based barbecue? What you know, anything you guys want to? I mean, obviously you guys got some big plans, which I'm excited to see how it's going to unfold. Like I said, just, you know, looking at the facility, you guys definitely have put in the work. I mean, you've done your due diligence. You've found the right people to help you, you know, establish. I mean, there are no shortcuts here. I'm telling you, there are no shortcuts.
Yeah.
Everything is first class. Everything looks amazing. I can't wait to see where this goes. But any last thoughts before we go?
Check out our website, barbecue.com. We have a locator on there, so you know, we're in some retailers. We have several internet retailers online selling our product. We're in some restaurants. We're trying to get into a bunch of restaurants, you know, and distribution, you know. So tell people about it. It's also available here. You want to come by and grab a pack? We'd love for you to try the product. So
Zack?
You know, we've been working as a team, trying to grow our team, trying to kind of have a thread that we want to weave throughout what we do, the food that we produce, the environment that we work in. and that's, it's barbecues for everyone. And that's, we want people to know that. We want people to feel it when they taste it. It's not, we make it for everybody. That's it.
Love it. So, best way to reach you guys is your website?
Yep.
Listen, guys, if you have not gone to their website, you haven't seen these guys, it's the first time you're hearing about these guys, come check them out. Go to their website, Austin, link everything below, their website. Go check them out. They have stores here locally. If you're in the Charlotte-esque-ish area, we're in Cornelius. And so they can't come here to buy?
Yep. Walk in here. Yep.
So you guys can actually come here. We're in like a business park. Come here. You can buy the product. If you have restaurant friends, chefs, share this podcast. Have them listen more about the co-founders of the company and what they're about. And so anyway, I love it. Episode 2 in the books. Very excited to have barbecue on here. So listen. With that, we're gonna go because, I gotta try the stuff out, right? I gotta try it out. I'm sure we'll do some behind the scenes recording, but anyway, you guys have an awesome rest of your day or night, wherever you're watching this, and appreciate you guys liking and subscribing and sharing our content. Our goal is to bring quality content and value to everybody. And so I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys soon. All right, guys. Barbecue. Which one is this? Which one are we?
Whole BBQ.
Whole BBQ. All right. Wow. That's very good. I'm not joking right now. Very good. Does taste just like barbecue. Okay, listen. This is the real deal. I'm not even playing right now. This is the real deal. If you would have given me a blind taste test, real barbecue versus this, I probably couldn't tell. I'm being serious right now. It's messy just like barbecue. I mean, it's perfect. Guys, come check these guys out. They're the real deal. I love it. Fantastic. See you guys soon.
The restaurants you love, the food you crave, and the people that make it all happen. We tell their stories on the Paper Trails podcast with Albemarle Paper Supply.